alien sent from outer space, that's who I be. Sent with a message for the human race, that's who I be.
Hello, aliens, people of the world and of the universe. This is the A.L.I.E.Nation Show, and this is MJbaker, your host. What is up? Happy New Year again. I'm gonna keep saying it until it ain't new no more, okay? But so for those of you guys who are new to the show, welcome, and to our traditional faithful aliens. How you doing today? How you doing this week? How about that? So A.L.I.E is an acronym for authentically living, intrinsically evolving naturally. That's a lot. And I want to talk about something that is near and dear. It is called masking. But before we get into that, I'm going to tell y'all this week where I am on the acronym of A.L.I.E.N. Authentically living, intrinsically evolving naturally. I feel like I'm doing two words right now, intrinsically evolving. And intrinsically means what naturally comes out of you is who you really are, right? So it's like potato, you know. If I really enjoy something, or let's say if something really ticks me off, or I really don't like it, I am no longer hiding the fact that I don't like something, or hiding my behavior, as long as it's not disrespectful to others. But hiding my behavior in order to, make somebody, get someone to like me, etc. And evolving, because last week I said, hey, I'm evolving. This week I'm still evolving. I'm intrinsically evolving. And a part of that intrinsically evolving is also understanding what my natural gifts are, what I have been gifted with that I can share with the world. And I'll give you an example. I worked in sales for 20 years of my life. And I was with a coach I have. And he was just like, okay, so you were in sales for 20 years. He was like, well, sales is a gift. You wouldn't have been in it for 20 years if it wasn't something that you could do. And I always felt like, oh, I was doing it for a paycheck. But sales can be self-deprecating. It can be very humbling, because you have to swallow a lot from people. And so during this process of understanding, oh, that is a gift. That is something intrinsically in me, that I don't mind talking to people. I don't mind discussing things with them. And, my mother even says, ever since I was a kid, I have had always been the one to just kind of be forward. I was always very forward as a kid. So that's intrinsically in me. But all of my life, most of the time, because of childhood traumas and things that had occurred and happened in my life, I masked that behavior, that forward, being off. Sometimes I'm abrasive, and I don't mean to be. But sometimes I just want to get to the point, or I just want to get through it, or I don't. So I'll just come at you like that, which I don't, it's not the person, it's me, right? But I had spent the majority of my life, 95% of my life. No, let me take that back. 99.9% of my life, I spent masking my true behavior. I spent living my life being someone else. So that, because I felt like who I was innately was not good enough. And again, that goes back to trauma as a child. I was inappropriately touched at a young age. So what does that do? It gives you it plants seeds of trust issues. It makes you, you know, not just that you don't trust people, but it also can make you feel like being yourself attracts bad. So then you decide to do and be someone else so that you don't attract that negativity. But by not being yourself, by being the opposite of who you are, you automatically put yourself in a negative sphere, which is what I did the majority of my life. And this leads into the topic. See, I didn't know I was going to pick intrinsically evolving. I really didn't. But this leads me into the topic of masking. And I had heard that terminology and different things like that, but I wasn't really sure what it was until I looked it up. And I have a TikTok, pull up MJbaker music on TikTok. Now, it's not going to be the traditional artist, musical artist TikTok. I deal a lot with the things that we talk about here on the A.L.I.E.Nation Show, because there are multiple sides to MJbaker, honey. It ain't just, oh, let me sing you a song. Sometimes it's, let's get to this trauma and let's work this thing on out. So anyway, masking, just to let you guys know, I'm going to give you the official definition and I'm reading it. It says masking or camouflaging is artificially performing social behavior that is deemed to be more socially acceptable by neurotypical standards, or hiding behavior that may be viewed as socially unacceptable. So people who really like to read books and you pretend that you don't, like in high school and stuff, because you don't want to seem like you're not, that you're smart, like people who, we hear stories of people who, and I did this, where you connect with someone and because that person isn't popular, you reject them and you pretend like you can't stand that bee or you can't stand that person. You're not being your complete and whole self. And so masking is so relevant to the alienation movement because it is an act of not being authentically yourself. It is an act of not intrinsically being yourself. And it goes against the grain of authenticity. And I wanted to talk about it on the show because a lot of us are masking. A lot of us are pretending to be something we're not. And I will say, like, for example, I was in a relationship with someone for a number of years. And, he was very unemotionally available. He was not emotionally available. And in a way, I was not emotionally available. I was, but in that relationship, there were certain rules that he had set, right? And one of the rules, and I call them rules, you may say something different, but I say rules. And one of the rules were like in public, he would never acknowledge me. Now this is me, I'm being real transparent, y'all. He would never acknowledge me as his romantic partner. I was always acknowledged as just being, oh, she's my homegirl or just my friend or my business partner. And so a lot of people just thought we were friends, but we were actually in a relationship. Like, if you can even call it layers, okay? Because now I realize it wasn't even truly a relationship, because if you love someone, if you truly, truly love and care for someone, you don't hide them. And then also on my side, if I truly loved me, I would not even have allowed it, right? Okay, so I digress. We'll go back to masking. So in order to keep that relationship, because I did not want him to leave me. I didn't want the relationship to end. So what did I do? Publicly acknowledging the relationship was deemed socially unacceptable in his eyes. So what did I do? I pretended that I was okay with that. I was not. I was very, oh my God. That thing made me so insecure. Oh my God, you guys. The person that I am today is not the person that I was when I was with him 10 years ago. And I bring that up because so many of us cooperate, are a part of things that we do not agree with and we do not like. And also, like on my TikTok, I made a post about people who say they are introverts and they're really not introverts. People who say they are extroverts, but you're really not an extrovert. An introvert does not hang out a lot around people because energetically it is draining for them. They need some sort of healthy isolation. Now, some people isolate unhealthy, but that's another show. But they isolate, because they may be in a job where they have to be around a lot of people. Let's say they work at Walmart, they have to be around a lot of people. So by the time they get home and the friend calls and says, hey, do you want to meet up for drinks? They are exhausted because they have had to exert. They have had to put out all day. So their batteries are on zero. So they need to do whatever they need to do to re-up, recharge, re-energize themselves. A true extrovert feeds off of other people. They feed off of energy. They are, and it's nothing for them to put out. They put out what they give in. An extrovert doesn't absorb it and is drained. An extrovert absorbs and puts it right back out. And that's why people say, oh, I love being around this person. They're so cool. That's because they're giving you exactly what you're giving them. That's what an extrovert does. But an introvert is taking in, and then they have to go release, and then recharge. So it's work for them to be around people or to be out all the time and different things like that. But there are a lot of people who are masking as an introvert. I brought up those definitions to say there are some people who are masking as introverts and saying they don't want to go out and they're going to do this or do that or be around people because they go, oh, I don't like people like that. Or, girl, I'm just, it's exhausting. Or a lot of people are really masking the truth of the fact that they just don't want to face certain things, like going to family functions or hanging out with certain friends. Like, instead of just saying, you know what, I'm not going to this function because I don't like those people, they say, oh, I'm an introvert and people drain me. No, you just don't want to face a particular situation, a particular trauma. I know me, for years, I wouldn't go to family functions because the person that inappropriately touched me would be at some of those functions. So I would always make excuses as to why I couldn't be there. Also, you have extroverts, you have people who are maybe introverts who are masking as extroverts, because when you're by yourself, You have to deal with your issues. You have to confront your thoughts. You have to confront the darkness. And so what do? We get out there and we just start going out, hanging out, drinking till, drinking a lot, or overeating, or whatever, smoking up, whatever you do to cope. But you're just like, okay, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of this particular thought. So I'm going to go hang out with my friends and I'm going to run away from it. Now, this is different. It's not the same as like if someone is in mourning or different things like that, and you're just like, man, I just need to go back to work so that I can function. That's a different type of coping. What I'm speaking of is someone who never addresses whatever it is that they are dealing with. And that's what masking does. Masking is becoming something else so that you don't have to deal with your realities. Because anybody who's like, for me, let's go back to this relationship. Me agreeing with him and being okay with my ex about not acknowledging our relationship and allowing that BS to go on for years, 6.5 years. And I mask the reality of me not agreeing with it. And the reason why it was so easy for me to agree, because I wanted to cover up my insecurities. I didn't want him to think that he was with someone who was immature or who was jealous hearted or insecure. I wanted him to feel like he was with a rock solid, type of woman. And he was, even if I would have demanded, no, I'm not going to be in a situation where somebody doesn't acknowledge me publicly. Hell no. You better tell, if people ask you, bruh, you with me, we together. Ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But I didn't love myself enough to put my foot down and to really say, this is what it's going to be. I didn't love myself enough. And when we mask ourselves, I know we want to blame society and we want to say, well, people didn't put these constructs around us. F that. If you didn't agree with it, see, it's like, it's not just what society says or what people say. It is what we agree with. And so I want to leave you guys with this. Love yourself. Be kind to yourself. Because a lot of us are out here pretending. Because masking is just pretending. And a lot of times we mask, we cover, we pretend, because we are trying to erase a trauma. We are trying to say, this never happened. You felt like if you moved away from your family, became a successful person, or you feel like if you make your family, you're not going to be that person, or whatever we use, whether it's being antisocial, reading loads of books, being hypervigilant, always being organized. And although all these things are good things, but if your why behind you doing them is because you're trying to hide, then you have created a character. I created a character for years. Let me tell y'all something. There are people who will say, MJbaker is like one of the kindest, sweetest people I've ever met. Will do anything for you. And then you got some people that'll say, who are you talking about? That girl selfish. That girl ain't want to give me a cup of water. But that's because I was masking. I was either masking as a mean girl because I had been hurt and disappointed so much, or I was masking as this super nice, not even kind, nice. Niceness meaning I'm just tolerating you for the moment. I really don't like you. Oh my God. So many people thought I liked them, y'all. I did not like them. But masking is creating a character. So before we go, I just want to say this. Are you pretending? And if you are, why? If you are covering up for something or someone or a situation, ask yourself why. And then journal and write it down. And let's begin the process of unmasking. Because that's the only way that you're going to live a successful life. There's too many fake people out here, y'all. There's too many people pretending to be something and someone that they are not because of a lack of self-love, like self-love on an intimate level. And I just want to encourage you guys to ask yourself the question, am I pretending? And why am I pretending? Why am I pretending to like somebody that I don't really like? Why am I pretending to, whatever it is? And no, because authentically living, intrinsically evolving naturally, it is not an easy process. But you will be all the better for walking it out. And so I love you guys. And thank you so much for watching the show. Thank you so much for taking part in it week after week. Let's blow up the A.L.I.E.Nation, you guys. Let's stop pretending to be something and someone that we are not. All right? Love you. Bye.